Nirabhidyate Shishno Vai Rajanandamritarthinaha Upastha Asit Kamanam Priyam Tad Upayashrayam
Nirabidyate Shishno Vai
Nirabhidyate Shishno Vai
Rajanandamritarthinaha Upastha Asit Kamanam Priyam Tad Upayashrayam.
Mataji's?
Nirabhidyate Shishno Vai
Okay. So, Nirvidyata came out. Shishnaha, the genitals. Vai, certainly. Praja, Ananda, sex pleasure. Amritarthinaha, aspiring to taste the nectar. Upastaha, the male or female organ. Asid, came into existence. Kamana, after lustful. Priyam, very dear. That. Ubhaya ashrayam, shelter for both. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Thereupon, for sexual pleasure, begetting offspring and tasting heavenly nectar, the Lord developed the genitals, and thus there is the genital organ and its controlling deity, the Prajapati. The object of sexual pleasure and the controlling deity are under the control of the genitals of the Lord. Purport: the heavenly pleasures for conditioned soul is sex pleasure, and this pleasure is tasted by the genitals. The woman is object of sexual pleasure, and both the sense perception of sexual pleasure and the women are controlled by the Prajapati, who is under the control of the Lord's genitals. The impersonalists must know from this verse that the Lord is not impersonal, for He has His genitals, on which all the pleasure objects of sex depend. No one would have taken the trouble to maintain children if there were no taste of heavenly nectar by means of sexual intercourse. This material world is created to give the conditioned soul a chance for rejuvenation, for going back home, back to Godhead. And therefore, generation of the living being is necessary for upkeep of the purpose of creation. Sexual pleasure is an impetus for such action, and as such, one can serve the Lord in act of sexual pleasure. The service is counted when the children born of such sexual pleasure are properly trained in God consciousness. The whole idea of material creation is to revive the dormant God consciousness of the living entity. In form of life, other than the human form, sexual pleasure is prominent without any motive of service for the mission of the Lord. But in the human form of life, the conditioned soul can render service to the Lord by creating progeny suitable for the attainment of salvation. One can beget hundreds of children and enjoy the celestial pleasure of sexual intercourse, provided he is able to train the children in God consciousness. Otherwise, begetting children is on the level of a swine. Rather, the swine is more expert than the human being, because the swine can beget a dozen piglets at a time, whereas the human being can give birth to only one at a time. So one should always remember that the genitals, sexual pleasure, the women and the offspring are all related in the service of the Lord. And one who forgets this relationship in the service of the Supreme Lord becomes subjected to the threefold miseries of material existence by the laws of nature. Perception of sexual pleasure is there even in the body of the dog, but there is no sense of God consciousness. The human form of life is distinct from that of the dog by perception of God consciousness. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manomishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Dadadi Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shvetapatakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Javadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivjakanitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinavandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanusite Devi Pranamami Haribhyo Vanchakalpatari Vishya Kripa Sindhibhyo Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Putale Shrimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Niti Namane Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Putale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavani Paschatya Desatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. He wants it to be turned up. You just turned up. Okay. So, here, sorry. Jnanananda Mayam Devam Nilmash Pratikagridam Adharam Sarva Vidyanam Hayagrivam Upasmahe Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinira Smarana Hoye Vigna Vinashan Anayashe Haya Nija Vanchita Purana. So here, we're discussing a specific topic being under the category of sex life and the pleasure of sex life, and how one is able to experience that pleasure. That is being explained here. It is being manifest from the genitals of the Lord. The Lord is also providing that pleasure. The worldly pleasures or the pleasures of this world, it is also coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here, Srila Prabhupada, pretty heavy commentary, as any time it comes when we're speaking about sex, that the whole material world runs on this principle of sex desire. As Srila Prabhupada says, this New York City, how big that place is, it was all built on sex desire, simply attraction to the opposite sex. Simply because of sex pleasure, all of this modern civilization has come about. So the heavenly pleasures for the conditioned soul is the sexual pleasure, and this pleasure is tasted by the genitals. The woman is the object of the sex pleasure, and both the sense perception of sexual pleasure and the woman are controlled by the Prajapati, who is under the control of the Lord's genitals. So here, the pleasure and the sex pleasure, as Prabhupada is saying, the woman is the object of sexual pleasure for the man, and the object of sex pleasure for the woman is the man. And so in this way, the man and the woman get together and try to enjoy this sukham hitucham, this little tiny bit of pleasure, undergoing so much austerities and so much other pains, just like when one is any time, and the brahmacharis can vouch for that, or any person that's been in some sort of relationship before, so much difficulty is there all the time. When one is in a relationship with another woman or something like that, there's so much difficulty. There's so many problems, so many issues, so many difficulties. But when that sex pleasure comes about, it seems that everything is worth it. That's what, at least that was my experience. Anytime you go with a girl, what is it for? One thing, sex pleasure. That's all the activities that you ever performed in your life with that person, the only thing it was directed towards was sex pleasure, lust. It was completely directed by lust, nothing else. So-called love, it seemed very love. So, seemed like love. But if luckily by the grace of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His devotees, we could realize that actually I'm trying to find love in this person, but anytime you get with this person, the only thing that love directs you towards is sex. So therefore it is called lust. So-called love of this material world is only defined as lust, because we're simply looking for that sex pleasure. And that sex pleasure counteracts all the distresses of life, as Prabhupada often comments in the Srimad Bhagavatam and in many other places, that the mass populace are working so hard day and night. You wake up early in the morning. I mean, if you drive on this highway at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's not working.
It's all the way up. You're saying turn it up, but
What's going on? Maybe Hare Krishna.
it's boosted all
It's
the way.
up?
It should be
Is it plugged in properly?
It looks a little sideways. I mean, it's tracking the audio fine.
Okay. All right. If it's otherwise, grab the other one. There's the other one over there. I don't know. Is that the other one that's over there? It's on the floor, on the right. So the men of this age, or the men and women now, working so hard, wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, get dressed, go to work, drive to, Prabhupada would comment like this, drive to work for 2 hours.
It's not charged.
So to work for 8-9 hours, and then drive back another 2 hours, get home, eat, sex, and sleep. That's all. And how is it all worth it? How can one live a life of working a karmic job like this under a boss who's on your case? You have to make that money. You have to be on time. You hate what you do. Most people hate what they do. But how is it that we're going on? How is it that the whole civilization is going on simply for sex desire? This is the power of sex. This is the power of sex desire. It rules the whole material world. We see this in Puranjana. Puranjana. He is a great king, and it's described how he enters into this garden of 9 gates. It has 9 gates, describing the body. And how this woman, she walks in, and although he was a great king, completely bewildered. He becomes like a dog, and dancing dog in the hands of a woman. He forgets everything. All the life's difficulties, all the difficulties of life. He forgets it. Why? Simply for sex desire. That is the bewildering nature of sex desire. Actually, it is the only thing that binds the living entity in this material world, sex desire. It is the hardest thing to conquer, this sex desire. And actually, if you're actually intelligent and you analyze this, you realize actually it is not real happiness. It is not real enjoyment. Simply suffering. Simply suffering. You run after this woman. You do so much. You have to work so hard. You have to do so much, for what? Just for a little bit of sex at night. So much waste of time. So much waste of time. People don't understand the price of time. They're trying to earn so much money, but they don't understand how much time they're wasting in their life in order to do this, simply for sex desire. Either just for sex desire at home, or you take a vacation and have sex desire somewhere else. Decorate the body in a certain way, decorate the home in a certain way, buy a nice car. All of this is not for your own personal ambition. It's simply for sex desire. It is simply born and arises out of sex desire. Therefore, the woman is called, what is this word? She's, no? Stri. One who expands. Because even if one is not in the association of women, because he's constantly contemplating upon that. The object of his sex desire, simply expanding his life, uselessly wasting it. What a waste. What a waste of life to work a karmic job like this. All day, no, you can't hear about the Lord, you're not worshipping the Lord, you're not serving the Lord. What a waste of time. The genitals and the pleasures of begetting counteract the distress of family encumbrances. One would cease to generate altogether if there were not, by the grace of the Lord, a coating, a pleasure-giving substance on the surface of the generative organs. This substance gives a pleasure so intense that it counteracts fully the distresses of family encumbrances. A person is so captivated by this pleasure-giving substance that he is not satisfied by begetting a single child, but increases the number of children with great risk in regard to maintaining them simply for this pleasure-giving substance. This pleasure-giving substance is not false, however, it originates from the transcendental body of the Lord. In other words, the pleasure-giving substance is a reality, but it has taken an aspect of pervertedness on the account of material contamination. In this material world, sex life is the cause of distress on an account of material contact. Therefore, the sex life in the material world should not be encouraged beyond necessity. So it's simply a household life, Griha Medhi. They simply experience that pleasure for that small bit of pleasure of the coating on the genitals. They are willing to go through so much difficulty simply for sex. Because sex binds one to this binds the living entity into this material world and makes the living entity a big fool. A big fool. It doesn't have to make sense. It makes one go crazy. It makes one mad because lust, contemplation. From contemplation, the desire to, this lust develops. From lust, anger. From anger, what's next? Huh? Bewilderment of memory. One loses his proper train of thought. From bewilderment of memory, there is loss of intelligence. What is this verse? 2.62? Something like that. I memorized it, but then my memory is terrible. 2.62, do you know? Anybody know? Maybe somebody can find it. Huh? No? While contemplating the object of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from attachment, such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. From anger, complete delusion arises. And from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. So you can leave it there. So from lust, anger, and complete delusion arises. One becomes deluded. Although one can live a very simple life, it doesn't require much, especially the body of a man. What do you need? What do you need? You can have 2 sets of clothes, that's all. As long as you can change the next day, that's all you need. 2 shirts, 2 pants, 2 sets of clothes. You wear one day, wash the thing that night, wear the next day, that's all. Actually, a man is satisfied like this. Sleep on 6 feet, 6 feet. 6 feet of space, that's all you need. Pass out, just a yoga mat. Not even need that sometimes. Nali was sleeping on the floor in India. In India, I remember if you go in the Brahmacharya ashram, you just have a bed with cardboard. It's just straight, just like wood. There's no cushioning, nothing, just straight wood. You just lie on that and you pass out. That's what I was doing for a while when I was there. You work all day for Krishna, and you go and you sleep on a hard cot. What is this? This wood? It's just like this thin piece of wood, about plywood. Yeah, it's just a plywood that's been put on a platform. And you lie down. It's a little uncomfortable for a little time, but then you pass out. You wake up. You're good to go. So the human form of life, it doesn't require so much. It doesn't, especially as the Shastra makes the point, in the body of a man. It does not require so much. It doesn't require anything. What do you need? You just need a set of clothes, something to eat, some work to do, and that's all. Not much is required. You can live a very simple life. You don't have to live very extravagant life. A very wealthy life. You don't have to show off this. A man doesn't really need to show off so much. It's like, what do you got? It's like, just live a simple life. But he only shows off for what? So he can impress the opposite sex. That's it. Nothing more than that. If you really look down to the bottom of it, there's nothing more than that. You want to work out, you want to get a nice car, you want to get a nice job. For what? Why do you need all these things? Why have to go and work 10 hours a day, 11 hours a day? What aspiration? What are you going to get out of it? Sex pleasure. That's it. That's what you want. That's what it's for. And that sex pleasure is being stated here a few times. It counteracts all the distresses that come along with it. But if one is intelligent, he doesn't have to go under the distress, and he doesn't have to counteract it if it doesn't have to go under the distress. You only have to counteract the distress by sex pleasure because you have distress. But if your life is not full of distress, then why do you have to counteract it? What do you have to counteract it with? You don't have to counteract it with sex pleasure. There's no need for it. There's no need for it. There's absolutely no need for it. This was one of the points that the devotees make. Often you can divert this and divert that into Krishna consciousness. You can use this, but sex pleasure you must cut. That's all. Cut. Tapasya brahmachari. One should remain a brahmachari, whether as a grihastha brahmachari or a naishtika brahmachari, one who just engages in the service of the Lord his whole life. So the nature of sex pleasure is that it diverts the mind from the ultimate goal of life. And it does not allow one to surrender to Krishna fully. It diverts one away, either the materialist or even within devotional service, to a material situation often, as we've seen in the past many times. If we analyze in North America at least, if we just analyze it, the number of devotees that have just fallen a victim to sex desire, sex pleasure, is ridiculous. I've seen it in my own life so many times. So many brahmacharis just completely gone off the rails just because of sex pleasure, because they couldn't control one thing, their genitals. They lost everything. Happy life. As a brahmachari, our lives are very ecstatic. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous the amount of pleasure we derive. The amount of pleasure we derive as brahmacharis, in brahmachari life, as brahmacharis, is ridiculous. I was just traveling with Bhakti Nick this past week, and we were just having the best time of our life every day. Every day. We were just, me and him were joking, laughing, having such a good time. And I was thinking, it's like, wow, this is what life is about. Traveling, distributing books, fully engaged. There's no time for anything else but just thinking about book distribution, thinking about how to distribute these books, how to get these books to these people, how to come up with new ways to get these books to these people, and talking about the book distribution after you're done with book distribution. And then passing out and waking up, and just your whole consciousness is just fixed on that one thing. And you derive great pleasure. There's distresses of the body. Sure, we wake up at 4 a.m., and then drive 10 hours, no nap, fall asleep, pass out when you get there, get up, 4 a.m., no nap, get up, just straight out the door right after breakfast, all the way until and the gig goes until 8 o'clock at night. You come back, you still got rounds left. But it's so blissful. It's so blissful, the whole process of the morning program, going out, being out there, coming back, driving. The level of bliss experience in that, you can tell, you can't experience that anywhere else. Whether within devotional service or outside as materialists, those who don't have the experience of performing book distribution daily, they don't have the experience of the ecstasy, book distribution, Harinam, all of these things, this core Sankirtan movement, those two activities which are core to the Sankirtan movement, they haven't experienced real pleasure. And therefore, when we're not doing such things, then we're thinking, sex pleasure. When we're not distributing books and our consciousness is not fixed on distributing books or chanting the holy name of the Lord on the streets and how to make others chant and how to make others come into devotional service, then we're simply focused on how to get sex. And that is manifested in different ways. It's manifested in different ways. May not be purely sex desire, but the desire for home, family. It's the expansion of sex desire. But if you control that, by how? By directing all that energy, Tivrena Bhakti Yogina, all that energy that you have in the distribution of the literature of Srila Prabhupada's books and the chanting of the holy name on the street. There's no question of sex desire. There's no question of sex desire. It's like Haridas Thakur. This prostitute was right in front of him, ready to offer herself to him. Ready to offer. Here, everything, take it. What do you want? I'll give myself to you. Beautiful woman, beautiful, beautiful prostitute. Did he take it? Did Haridas Thakur fall? Why?
He remained fixed in his chanting.
He didn't give a fig. He didn't give a damn at all. She came, he wasn't disturbed. He was like, no. He wasn't averse. He wasn't attracted. He wasn't like, no, how dare you come close to me? Don't close at all. I hate women. That wasn't him. That's not what a real sadhu is. She came and said, okay. Why? Because he's so absorbed in Krishna. He's so absorbed in just contemplating upon and hearing Krishna's names. He doesn't care. Okay, sit here. You sit here. Once I finish, then you can enjoy with me as much as you want. But Haridas Thakur, how could he ever finish? He can never finish. He finishes, oh, I'm sorry. I couldn't finish my rounds today. Tomorrow you come again. Tomorrow you come again. She comes again, then, no, I couldn't finish today. You come again tomorrow. By the end of hearing Shravan, hearing from the lips of the pure devotee, her heart became completely changed, and she basically became his disciple. She took care of Tulasi. She renounced her life. Haridas Thakur was completely fixed on fully absorbed in hearing about the Lord. Therefore, sex desire was not a problem for him. As Mahotsa Prabhu was saying yesterday, this Mataji approached him and asked him to kiss him, right? When you call it. And so many other times we go to these festivals, so many women and other men approach us to either offer us drugs or sex. I have so many cases of our devotees being offered straight sex. Ready, beautiful woman, no problem. You can make it happen right now, they don't care. But when you're fixed in book distribution, I had this experience when I was with Avadut Chandra in Okeechobee. We were like, that was really tough. It was 85 degrees. We were in Florida, hot. It's ridiculously hot.
No shade.
No shade, nothing. No shade. It's just like open field. It's just the sun is beating down. You've got these big osprey bags on you. Your back is completely wet. You have 50 pounds on your back. We used to carry like 30 bhakta stacks, 40 bhakta stacks.
And your water.
And water. We used to have, at that time, we still had the Dawins in there, I think.
Oh.
Dawin, that was heavy. And then we would have to, and then water on the side. And going to the tents, and you're like, externally you're suffering. It seems your body is like, all right, it's a rough end. And a beautiful woman comes and she says, they know we're monks. They want to embrace. It's a no, miss. We're monks. We have our strength, the awesome, defense. This is our defense immediately. You put your head down and you go like this. That's it. Finish. No touching. But then they can appreciate that. But I was thinking at that time, I remember specifically distributing books, going to those tents, specifically just focused on book distribution. There was no disturbance in the mind. Although I was seeing so many crazy things. People would smoke, straight up snort cocaine from $20 bill and then give it to me afterwards. I was like, damn, okay, I'll take that. I'm gonna take what you get. Not the cocaine, but But when we're fixed, we don't become disturbed. When we're fixed on just distributing Srila Prabhupada's books and just pushing it on, then you can just experience the level of samadhi, just like one-pointed attention of just Krishna consciousness. I have to distribute these books. There's no time for this stuff. There's no time for this. No time to talk to this beautiful girl here. There's no time for it. There's no time for me to sit down and hang out with these guys and smoke a joint. There's no time for it. I got to go distribute these books. This is the most important thing. That sex pleasure, which is so pleasurable, it becomes insignificant. It becomes absent in our life when we're completely fixed. Every devotee has had this experience. Anyone that's performed devotional service in some intense way. When you're on book distribution, you're not thinking about this stuff. You're out there, you're distributing books. You got something, you get it going, and it's just like your consciousness. You start to, it's like a streamline. You just start to go down this strong current of just this thought of book distribution. Any person you see, all you're thinking is books, 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 books. Or if you're on Harinam, you're thinking how to make this person chant, how to make this person dance. So this trouble brought about by sex desire, although there's so much bliss within that life, if one starts to divert his mind slightly and thinks, oh, how I can enjoy this woman, how can I enjoy the opposite sex, then immediately he can lose that platform. Immediately he'll lose. Just like, who is this Kala Krishna Das? Who is this person that, Lord Chaitanya sent to get something from this house? And he became slightly diverted. Chota Haridas. Chota Haridas. Slight diversion. He didn't even talk to a woman. He was slightly attracted. Lord Chaitanya immediately rejected him. Prabhupada said, I'm not so strict. But if throughout our life we can keep this principle of preaching, pranadijar hetu prachar, that it gives us life to preach. We go out and we speak to people about Krishna. We give them Krishna consciousness. We give them these books. We give them the holy name. It gives us life. And one who has life, only he can preach. The Sankirtan movement, it is the life of all transcendental knowledge. When one performs Sankirtan, his life becomes full of this, what we always singing about and dancing about, and what the Brahma Samhita is saying, every word is a song and every step is a dance. One realizes that. Every day he can realize that. Every moment he can realize that. But if our mind is diverted towards sex desire, then everything is finished. Then all our position that we have in the ashram that we have, the ecstasy that one experiences on this book distribution and traveling book distribution, and even within the ashram, of just performing devotional service, preaching, speaking to people, that can all be lost. For what? Simply for sex desire. We've seen, like I was saying, so many examples of devotees. Good positions, in a good position, long time practicing, great devotees, nice devotees, still sweet devotees. But because they couldn't control that one thing, they lost it. They lost their position. They lost that ability. So Prabhupada says in here, in this Brahmachari book, it's 25% chance in the Grihastha ashram, 75% chance in the Brahmachari ashram. 75%. We got to give ourselves the biggest chance. So this sex desire drags the living entity around. You can see it. You can see every day. Just look. Anybody you see, they're all dragged by it. But the devotee, he's not. Why? Because he's become a Goswami. He's trying to become a Goswami. He's trying to become a control of the senses. He's trying to control his tongue, his belly and genitals. We've spoken about the tongue before. Now we're speaking about the genitals. So the living entity, if we simply direct our consciousness in serving Krishna, especially in this preaching mission, then we have a great chance. Sex desire is the biggest hurdle of the living entity. But this Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction of humanity at large, by which we can conquer sex desire. And prime example being Haridas Thakur. He did it. He showed, he's an Acharya. He showed by example how one can do that. His whole consciousness was fixed in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, always seeing him, always serving him. We can see like that. That if we ever have that thought, I was thinking like this, if we ever meet some woman or some beautiful person who is very attractive to us, you can immediately think in your mind how much more beautiful the toenail of my spiritual master is. Immediately you can think like that. Immediately it becomes distasteful. So many beautiful women, yes, they're attractive, there's no doubt. We don't deny that. But the attraction to the lotus feet of the spiritual master, the effulgence that is coming from the lotus feet of the spiritual master is incomparable to the beauty of even the most beautiful woman on this planet, or in all the heavenly worlds, wherever they may be. Incomparable. The pleasure that is derived by simply seeing the lotus feet of the spiritual master is incomparable to the sex desire one can have, a sex pleasure one can have with hundreds and thousands of women. Just by seeing the lotus feet of the spiritual master. That is the real pleasure of life, if one is in a proper consciousness. If one is in a proper state of mind, one is in a Krishna conscious state of mind, there is no doubt one experiences great ecstasy, great pleasure just by seeing the lotus feet of the spiritual master. How beautiful they are compared to the bag of stool, urine, mucus, blood. We consider that to be very beautiful. Then we should know, I'm in illusion. I'm in illusion. So a person on the path of self-realization, those who are in the Krishna consciousness movement, specifically those, right now at least, who have taken up the renounced order of life, they should be very careful in their endeavor in their different activities and their endeavors, that they keep their consciousness in line. Because you may be performing book distribution, you may be going out in Harinam, but your consciousness may not be fixed. You may be doing so much books. But if you do not have the principle being that you're the servant of Krishna and you're out here to serve Krishna, not the nature of a sense enjoyer of thinking I am doing everything and I am the enjoyer of this book distribution, I am the enjoyer of the results of this book distribution, but one is thinking Bhaktaram Yagyatabasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, that Krishna is the beneficiary of all sacrifices, all austerities. And one is deriving great pleasure out of service attitude, not out of the results. One derives great pleasure out of the service. And he has the opportunity to do this his whole life. Very blissful. Experiencing this ananda, this transcendental bliss, nityananda, this eternal bliss. Every day, Avadhu Chandra Prabhu told me, I got back from yesterday and he was saying to me, it never ends. The happiness of that, it's just ever fresh and new, right, Prabhu? I said, yes, of course. He said, you're doing the same thing, you're traveling and you're doing this, but the blissful nature of it doesn't end. It's not like you go out and the next week you go again, it's like, oh my God. It's like, no, it's constant. And it's more and more amazing, to so much so. Anyways, if Vishnu Chitta Prabhu was here, he wouldn't like me saying this. But I didn't even want to come back. I was like, let me just stay out there, please. Because it's so awesome. That's what we want to do with our lives. Just want to preach. Just want to preach this message of the Lord free of any other disturbances. Why do all of these things? What is the need to do anything else? There is no need. My body is taken care of. My living situation is everything is taken care of. All I have to do is go out and distribute books and be happy, that's all. Me and Bhakti Nick were having such a good time. It was so amazing. It was just, and even when it was hard, it was still so amazing because we were serving Krishna. We were serving our spiritual master. We know they're pleased. But on the platform of sex life, nobody's pleased. Nobody's pleased. Who's pleased? Are the children pleased? Is the wife pleased? Is the husband pleased? No, not at all. Everyone is frustrated. Everybody is frustrated. See, I've just in our travels, I've seen it again and again. Everyone's frustrated. Even amongst devotional societies, there's a reason for that. Not all devotees. We've seen, whatever, they have children, and the children don't become devotees. As Prabhupada is speaking up on here. That it's simply the reason marriage is there is to fulfill that sex desire to some extent, as in Dharma, within Dharma is allowed. But from that should come Krishna conscious children. If not, then it's simply another waste of time. And so much difficulty. You have to raise the child, and the child is, he grows up, and they don't become Krishna conscious. They become averse to devotional service sometimes. But they're there, but they don't really practice. And the parents, the woman is frustrated, the man is frustrated. You've built a big home, big so-called seemingly nice-looking family, but the children are not devotees. So much suffering is there within that realm. But if one just remains often I say this, even I have to, when people come in, we take care of them, me and Ali Krishna Prabhu, and we teach them how to dress. It's just like having a child. Teach them how to dress, teach them how to eat, teach them how to sleep properly. So they're not allowed to sleep on their bellies, right? So teach them how to sleep, teach them how to pass through, teach them how to wash this too. All of these things, teach them how to bathe properly. Everything has to be retaught. But although they're like children and we train them, it is free from the attachments and the pullings of family life. It's the same thing though. It's the same thing. It's like having children. Why do I need children? I don't need children. I go, my homies I get to train up. They're like my children. They grow up and then they grow up really fast. It takes 3 months. It doesn't take 15 years. And if they don't want to be a part of it, hey, here's the door. It's the end of it. So Krishna consciousness gives us everything we need. Gives us everything we need. There's no need to go anywhere else. There's no need to do anything else. If you preach for Lord Chaitanya, everything in your life will be satisfied. You'll get everything you ever wanted and more. Everything you ever wanted, you'll realize you don't need that. And you'll get more, you'll get Krishna Prema, that's all. You get love for Krishna, you get love for the spiritual master. You develop bhakti. That keeping that consciousness fixed on Krishna. You get that, you get nishta. If we diverted by sex desire, then it'll be very difficult to come about. It's not that it doesn't come about, but it is difficult because the Grihastha ashram is difficult. It's a place of difficulties. If you're having so many difficulties, as often my spiritual master says, then you go to the ashram of difficulties. If you're having so many problems, if your mind is so disturbed in the brahmacharya ashram or in the ashram of a renunciate, then go to the ashram of problems. There you can fix so many problems. In the brahmacharya ashram, there's a problem, you just go on in life, that's all. That's just life. Problems, that's just life. Renounced. We fix what we can and what we can't, we don't worry about it. We just go on. I didn't sleep enough today, okay, whatever. Sometimes on Sankirtan, slept 2 hours. Slept 6 hours in 2 days. Okay, am I going to just sleep in today. No, I'm going to get up and chant my rounds and go out. It is what it is. So you don't get prasadam sometimes. You're out there. What are we going to eat today, bro? You know what? We got this chidwa. Gas station has hot water. We're going to put the hot water in the chidwa and it's going to be good. And you just take that. We don't go out of our way today, bro. Let's go and make a big meal and do. No, it's simple. What's the point? Let's just eat simple, go distribute books. Not like that all the time. It's a rare case, of course. Otherwise, we'll be dead. But there's not so much emphasis of trying to enjoy, but there's more emphasis of service. But in the Grihastha ashram, that's required. A level of enjoyment is required. But it's a great distraction to one's life of Krishna consciousness. We've seen, at least within the West, we've seen in India so many good examples of Grihastha devotees. Within the West, not so prominent. We're trying to create that. Obviously, 99% of the society is going to be Grihasthas. But better to remain brahmachari. Better to remain in the renounced order of life for the men. For the Prabhupada said, like the expert, it's like all the women should get married and all the brahmacharis should stay brahmachari. How are we going to do that? Prabhupada said, that is expert management. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's going to happen. 99% of the brahmacharis get married. But if we keep our lives fixed, we don't have to. There's no need for it. There's really no need for it at all. There's no need for it. There's just no need for it. But if you do it, and you need to do it, because you have desires, which all of us do. But if those desires cannot be controlled, then you have to go through that ashram. It is a part of the varnashram system to go through that. Then you should go through that with a dharmic sense, like is being described here. In a dharmic way, don't be a dharmic, don't be a dog. Do it properly. Get married properly. Don't just run off with some women, as we've seen so many times. I've seen it as a bhakta when I was in Australia with many brahmacharis. I've seen it in North America good amount of times. The ashram we were staying at before we moved to Atlanta. Just going on. Every other month, it's like another brahmachari falls down. Don't do that. We won't do that. If you have those desires, then do it properly within marriage. Get married. Do it dharmically. And Krishna says that sex desire, which is according to dharma, that is me. So if we are Krishna conscious and we're performing sex under the realm of Krishna consciousness, only for producing children, and we do that in proper consciousness and we raise them in Krishna consciousness properly. All the other examples we have within our society, you can see where everything went wrong. So we try to fix those things, homeschool our kids, raise them in Krishna consciousness, make them dedicated, let them join the preaching mission of Lord Chaitanya. Then if the Grihastha's life is also successful, it's complete. Not that I'm saying brahmacharya ashram is the most ideal situation to perform devotional service. But if one can situate his life around Krishna consciousness full time as a Grihastha, then he is also successful. We're not identifying and in the consciousness, we're not brahmachari consciousness. That is not the point. We're Krishna conscious. So if as a Grihastha you can become more Krishna conscious, because in the brahmacharya ashram you may be disturbed and you may not be Krishna conscious, you may be in disturbed consciousness all the time. Instead of Krishna conscious, you're disturbed consciousness. And in the Grihastha ashram, having a wife and kids, that is, everybody has different natures, as Prabhupada said in the previous purport. If that is more suitable for the individual, then in discussion with one's authority, he may take upon the life of a Grihastha, and as long as he remains submissive to his authority and takes upon the advice of his authority in how to conduct his life, then there's no reason why he cannot be on the platform of pure devotional service. It is not limited to a place, time, and circumstance or an order of life. Krishna consciousness is available to everyone and anyone in all orders of life, varnas and ashrams. So we have to do that. If we can't do it in the brahmacharya ashram, then we have to do it in the grihastha ashram. Not that I can't do it in the brahmacharya ashram. So then I go to the lowest platform of becoming, like Prabhupada says here, at the level of a swine. Not that. We have to be level-headed. We have to judge ourselves properly. We cannot try to be on the platform of a Paramahamsa saying, I am so great, I will conquer all this. If it is disturbing us, then we should consider over time, should I get married? If that question comes up again and again in our mind, then you should get married. If the question comes up in your mind, and you go, because the question is not like it doesn't come up at all in any brahmachari's mind. The question always comes. But the position of a renunciate is go, no. And then he forgets, he doesn't think about it again. And then he may come again like a couple of years later and he go, no, I'm good. You know what? I'm going to take a nap, wake up. No, I'm good. Like Parameshwar Prabhu says, if you're thinking about it, just take a nap, wake up, and write it down, and see if it makes sense, and use your intelligence. No, okay, that's it. And a renunciate gives it up in his mind, doesn't contemplate. That's it, finished, done. He's a brahmachari. But if we're contemplating, should I not, oh man, this girl is so beautiful, she's so beautiful, oh man, God, what about this? If I do it like this, maybe it will be good in my future life, maybe I can work this job, maybe I can do that. Just get married, don't try to remain brahmachari, there's no point. You'll simply just put yourself in a more difficult situation. But if you can become fixed in the service of the Lord constantly and become fully enthusiastic in serving the Lord in His preaching mission in one form or another, then better to stay, better to remain and not let the sex pleasure drag us down and slow us down. We're on the highway. We get on so many highways in North America. Big highways, big truck. The truck, that Ram truck, it don't stop. You go from one location to other, you do not have to make a single stop. It's like that. The brahmachari is like that. You get on a highway, you can hit, whatever, as fast as you can go. And just keep going. And it's fun. There's also a detour. You can take a detour, you can take the back ways. Everybody gets there ultimately. But if we can, we remain on the highway. We don't want to get off the highway. So the pleasure that is derived from the genitals is ultimately coming from the Lord. So if we can control that, that sex pleasure, this sex pleasure, as Prabhupada says at the end of here, is even there in the body of a dog. But there's no sense of God consciousness. The human form of life is distinct from that of the dogs by the perception of God consciousness. This sex pleasure you've already enjoyed so many times in so many lives as a dog, as a hog, as a cat, as a monkey. This life, just restrain from it. Just forget about it, at least for this life. Just engage in Krishna consciousness, whether it's within a family life. Within family life doesn't mean free sex. It's just for begetting children. Brahmacharya is still maintained within that. So remain a human being, remain a proper follower of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, and we can blissfully serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, chanting and dancing our whole life. Oh, why do anything else? There's nothing else to do. There's nothing more to do. All we have to do is control our sex desire. That's all it takes. One thing. One thing. That's all you have to do. One thing. You control one thing, everything else is good. You can't control that one thing, everything becomes hellish. So this is ultimately come from the Lord. It is ultimately coming from the transcendental personality of Godhead. So we should utilize it by begetting Krishna conscious children, or utilize it as brahmacharis by not using it and using that energy in serving the Supreme Personality of God. Use that same energy that would be directed towards maintaining a home, house, family, children. A man can maintain a whole house by himself. Just direct that towards serving the Lord full time. How much you can do. How much you can do in a whole life. Just like, some of these devotees, they're out distributing books. There's huge book distributors. Just every day they did that for the rest of their lives. How much they've done. Unimaginable how much they'll do. So we can simply keep this sex pleasure out of our lives by constantly engaging in devotional service and constantly remembering Krishna, remembering the pastimes of Krishna. That will satisfy us. That will really satisfy us. And then when we're finished, when we're done here, and we can join into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, as Prabhupada comments like this on the first verse of the Bhagavatam, then that sex pleasure is also there in the spiritual world. But that is very different to this. Then one can have that there. That is there. For the pleasure of Krishna, not the pleasure of the self. So ultimately we want to give Krishna the ultimate pleasure. There is also sex pleasure in the spiritual world, but it's complete different nature. So we can do this our whole life, satisfy Krishna like this, and join Krishna in serving Krishna, serving the spiritual master in the transcendental pastimes that go on in the spiritual world. So I'll end my class there. Sorry, it was a little more heavier purport here, discussing sex desires. So we went into a little bit more, especially for the brahmacharis. Let's keep these principles intact. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Is there anything from Mahotsa Prabhu? Anything else here? Yes, Avadhuta Chandra Prabhu.
Prabhu, thank you. Just for reference, there is 2 instances in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and one is Kala Krishna Das, and he was the...
One second. Yes, please.
Kala Krishna Das got distracted by gypsies, and then he was banished from the association, and then Chota Hari Das looked lustfully upon a woman. So there's 2 instances of that in the pastimes, which was happening, back then during Lord Chaitanya's time. So, and then also in relation to today's class, there's a verse. It's the last verse of the Brahma Samhita, and it describes that you have to bear this fiery energy, this tejas, and by doing that, you can regulate the objects of this world. It's a really nice verse, but it's one has to learn tolerance in spiritual life. That's just it. Mahotsa Prabhu has some.
Yeah, he's here. Mahotsa Prabhu?
We can't hear anything that the other Avus and this conversation.
Okay. All right, can you turn the mic up? That mic up?
It's the same.
Anyway, but so you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. One other thing, in one about Haridas Thakur, yes, first, like the prostitute came to test him. Actually, I wanted to leave immediately. When I found out that when I saw you, I figured out that you were sent by this Rasta Ramachandra Khan. But I thought anyway I was compassionate towards you, and I decided to just let you hear the holy name of Krishna. And that's why my devotees say I finished my rounds, but our rounds are never finished. Haridas Thakur's rounds are never finished. And then she heard the holy name, and then after 3 days, she shaved her head. She surrendered to Haridas Thakur's Lord's feet. Haridas Thakur asked her to shave her head, give up, or sell all her stuff, give the money to the Brahmanas, just sit and worship Tuesday, and then later on she became known as a big saint, But then another, even more scary thing which happened to Haridas Thakur. Yes, it's one thing for like a prostitute to come and bewilder you, But then Maya Devi herself, she herself comes to bewilder Haridas Thakur, tries to come to bewilder Haridas Thakur. And I think Chaitanya Bhagavad or Chaitanya Charitamrita, it says that the move she did would even bewilder Lord Brahma. But Haridas Thakur was so absorbed in Nama Rasa that he was not bewildered by Maya Devi. Then Maya Devi herself, when she realized that he is not at all even close to being like attracted to her, she just said, you see, ever since this movement of Lord Chaitanya started, everyone is getting the mercy, but because of Maya herself. But now I'm coming to beg you, can you please also initiate me to the chanting of the holy name of Krishna Sharan by Lord Chaitanya?
That's amazing. That must be Chaitanya Bhagavad, huh?
Yeah. Maya Devi herself is initiated into the chanting of the holy name of Krishna.
Wow.
Can you believe that? That's the power of Haridas Thakur. That's why even Prabhupada writes in India, I was holding my says that you can pay to Haridas Thakur, or you can pay to the four Kumaras, we can pay to Srila Prabhupada himself. So it's like it's very amazing actually. Bottom line, if the thought ever arises, you just have to you take a nap, you wake up, and you realize, is it worth it? Is it worth it at all? What's it worth? How long will someone be in the honeymoon phase for? How long until the reality just strikes of it just being two things? Can you imagine knowing what you know? Knowing what you know and just oh my God, what did I just do, dude? What did I just do? It'll just be so depressing, So it's better if we can do it, better to just stick it out. In Atlanta, Bhakti Vishwambar Madhav Maharaj, he was 16-year-old. He was a 16-year-old boy. And then him and another devotee were there. They were really wanting to see Srila Prabhupada. They couldn't see Prabhupada. And they turned around and saw Srila Prabhupada was there. And then they wanted to really test Prabhupada's lotus feet. So they offered their obeisances and they very gingerly pointed their finger and touched Prabhupada's lotus feet and got the dust of Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. And then Prabhupada was giving class that day, and then they came. A couple of brahmacharis were all there. And then he said, yes, my Guru Maharaj, he very much liked this brahmachari life. You have no simple belongings, you can lie down anywhere on the floor. And then, you preach, you do all these things, you distribute books, and life is so amazing. Otherwise, if this Grihastha life, he says, so much trouble. You have to get apartment, you have to get wife, you have to do this, you have to do that. So much trouble. Why so much trouble? What's the use of so much trouble? We don't need to offend anyone. If you're getting offended, you don't understand the philosophy and I feel bad for you. But so much trouble, Prabhupada says. And then, he said itching sensation will be there. The senses will itch. But then Prabhupada says, but you preach and you pray to Krishna, and the itching sensation will go away. He said that in Atlanta. So it's very amazing. And then Bhakti Vishwambar Madhav Maharaj is 60 years old. He's saying, wow, Prabhupada is trying to save us. Prabhupada is trying to save us. And Maharaj is till today. Wow. Full on, hardcore, too hardcore. He knows I think 400,000 verses or something.
That's crazy.
How do you even talk to someone who knows so many verses?
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, it's Prabhupada said that, and Mason has a question.
Oh wow. The muscle man Mason.
Yeah, I just wanted clarification. You're saying 25% go Grihastha or fall victim to this sexes are, what was that?
So in the Brahmachari book, if you in the Grihastha ashram, there's 25% chance of going back to Godhead. It's not exact, but it's Prabhupada says that. It's 70. It's just a ratio. It's there's a higher chance of being able to attain perfection in the Brahmachari ashram than the Grihastha ashram.
Okay.
Three quarters in the you have 3/4, 75% more opportunity or chance to make it.
I understand.
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
That's very simple to understand because you can see how much you spend time in the Brahmachari ashram under some, like me being, especially my first I mean, even to this day, being under like authority under Mahotsa Prabhu and Vishnu Chitta Prabhu, how much advancement you make because of their like guidance. If I didn't have that, it's like, I can't imagine where I would be if I was in Australia right now by myself, or like just under no authority and you're just kind of doing your own thing. It's like hopeless. So under proper guidance and authority, and if you're like a little bit, humble, they really train you up and they really give you the sauce, and you get put through you really get put through the hard knocks of life in this ashram. It's really pushes you, like it gets you to a point of like really like, damn, I'm about to give up right now. But if you can overcome those points, then it's like, wow, after that, like you see how did, even when difficulties come later, you can like welcome them. Like Kunti Marini says, you kind of start to welcome difficulties, or you start to not be so anxious about difficulties because Krishna's going to come through. Krishna and Krishna's devotees are going to come through, and you can really like depend on that. And that's one of the principles of surrender is complete dependence upon Krishna. So brahmacharya ashram just means complete dependence. And so under that dependence, you make so much rapid advancement. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's amazing. It's amazing. We've seen so many devotees within the movement spend so many years, but some of our brahmacharis who've been in the ashram for 4 months have become more advanced. Very easy to tell. 4 months, 3 months, whatever. Bhaktas that graduate. Sometimes are more advanced than devotees that have spent 20 years in the movement. Sometimes devotees that have spent 40 years in the movement. They understand more of the bhaktas, sometimes. So that is the beauty of having proper authority, proper knowledge, under proper guidance. You said something, Ali?
Yeah.
Yeah, real quick. We can.
It was I read Servant of the Servant. And it was very exciting because, anyways, Tamal Krishna Goswami is engaged in so much preaching that at some point in time, I think it was when he was working in the France temple or Germany temple, one of those.
He was married, huh?
It was all great house.
He got married and then he took sannyas.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. He was around a bunch of grihastas, and he almost felt like he had to get married at that point. It was just the association, anyways. But he got married, and even when he was married, he was dragging his wife here and there to preach and open centers and book distribution. A lot of the grihastas during that time were doing that. Brahmachari life and grihastha life wasn't much difference in the fact that they were like actively like doing Krishna conscious activities. So it was very inspiring. Hopefully we can emulate that.
The farms are the best way to do it. Like you were saying yesterday, the farms are the best way to do that. Grihastas get on the farm and they should have a mood of preaching, not a mood of keeping everything to myself. Generally, when grihastha life is like that, then it's miserable. The mood of Krishna consciousness is always giving. And that should be our principle, our life, always giving. Never like, okay, this is for me. Okay, people come to your house, you give them prasadam. If they need to stay at your house, you give them space to stay. Devotees that come, whatever, you just provide a space where people come and it's like, it's easily understood, oh, this is Krishna's home. Even, the grihastha doesn't have to say it. It's seen. Seen this person is detached. We've seen grihasthas like that. You go to their home and you feel like you're at home when you go there. And they serve so nicely and they provide everything else. Like you can see they're not attached, they're just willing to serve, they're willing to give, and you feel warm and welcome. So the grihasthas should do like that in the farms. When people come from outside, it's like being in family, not like, oh, mine and yours, and you guys have come here from outside, and this is all my stuff. And it's like there's like that preaching attitude should be there, and it will be the same, yeah.
Prabhupada is very emphasizing complete reliance on Krishna. And there's so many different ways we can preach in restaurants, food trucks, farm activities. There's so many options that it's we should like try to get Krishna's name throughout every forum. Everywhere someone turns, they see Krishna. So.
We're speaking all these principles, but 99% are going to get married. They're not an illusion that all our men that are here, or men, the brahmacharis in the Krishna conscious movement, are not going to get married. They get 99%, probably 99.9%, Statistics say that. You look at the last 45 years, 50 years of the movement, and you count the number of brahmacharis in North America in your hands. Maybe just in one hand. Parameshwar Prabhu, this Dujamani Gaur Prabhu is a little later, yeah. Dujamani Gaur Prabhu. And then there is those who have stuck it out a long time, I guess. And there's Prabhu in San Francisco. There's like Balaram there. There's a few there.
He's taking sannyas.
He's taking sannyas. Balaram is taking sannyas. And then there's the other devotee who came here, the book distribution ministry.
Oh.
Vijay Prabhu. There's like a few. Just you can count them in your hands. And how many devotees have gone through that ashram?
The devotee that does kirtan, what's his name? Krishna Kirtan. Was that his name?
Krishna Kirtan Prabhu. He's from the West.
He just goes all over.
No, but just within the not Krishna das. This is just within the Western. I'm just saying Western Hemisphere. Huh? Ram Rai Prabhu is there.
He's Prabhu from
Philadelphia. Haryashwar Prabhu.
Yeah.
There's a few that's like 50 years. There's like 50 years of the movement. That's a lot of people coming through, and only like there's like 10 something like that, 10, 12. So 99% are going to get married. So they should engage in all these different, They should take the brahmacharya training that they have and continue that. Don't become relaxed. We're a pushing movement. Anything else? Anything from the mothers? Yes, Anamataji.
Does that ratio, the 25-75, does that also apply, does that like apply to men? Or like,
Yeah, okay. So you asked this.
I'm saying like,
Oh, in terms of like a manly body and a woman body?
yeah, like, because if 75% chance of going back to God if you're brahmacharya ashram versus perhaps, but from my understanding, women are better off in their house, right?
Yeah. So it's not like okay, now you're in the brahmacharya ashram, 75% of you making it. It's like there's a higher chance because naturally it's more geared towards devotional service. But does that mean there's a less of a chance for a woman to go back home, back to Godhead? No, not particularly. Because if the woman is intensely engaged, even if her husband is not proper, sometimes she can take the husband back home, back to Godhead. So it's just about most brahmachari is going to go back home, back to Godhead, if they're engaged properly. Same thing with grihastas, if they're engaged properly. It's just the engagement, there's less of a chance to get distracted in the brahmacharya ashram. And the nature, generally the woman's body presents more distraction than the man's body. Because the needs are more. A woman's body naturally needs more than a man's. It's like it's hard if you had to sleep on a hard wood, like this thing right here, literally that's what you have to sleep on in India as a brahmachari. You couldn't do that. You can't just sleep on a straight floor. It's like, you need like a situation and whatever, all of these things. And brahmacharis, they can just travel anywhere, do anything, eat anything, sleep anywhere. But a woman can't do that. A woman can't travel so much. Actually, all this travel our men do is ridiculous. Like it's just for a body of a woman, it cannot handle it. You'll just fall apart. But a body of a man can handle it. Even that, after like a month, he started like wear out a little bit. Like, okay, we need to like take a little break and revive the body. So, but there's more distractions available in the form of a woman because generally the desire to have home and all of these things and whatever jewelry, all these things have more, as Bhagavatam describes, 9 times more than a man. So naturally that distraction is there. But if you can divert that, if the man is strong and he can help divert that into Krishna consciousness, then there's no doubt why the couple or the woman or the man can't go back to Godhead. Just like if you're engaged in the farm your whole life, no problem. You shouldn't have a single reason why you're not going back home, back to Godhead. Not a single, because you're engaged fully. You don't have to work a karmi job. You're engaged in the farm, you're engaged in preaching, and by practically showing your life. Done, finished. So like that, that they're definitely the woman's body is less ideal than a man's body. There's no doubt. Renounced order of life is naturally meant for self-realization. But there's no impediment on the path of devotional service. We're not Mayavadis. Mayavadi, you have to be brahmacharya, full on, without that, forget about it. But we're not Mayavadis, we're not like that. Prabhupada himself was a grihastha for some time. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he gave Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So like this, if one can just engage properly, that is the point. Our point is not brahmacharya, grihastha. If you identify as all of this, then you're also finished. You identify, I'm a brahmachari my whole life. I'm a brahmachari. That means he's not a real brahmachari. Real brahmachari means I'm a servant of Krishna. That's it. That's my only principle. No one else. That's it. Egaleshwara Krishna, Arasabhritya. Krishna is the only supreme. He's the only one to be served. Everybody else is a servant. So like that. Is there anything else?
Srila Prabhupada's times where I was just kind of keeping that new brahmacharya and just, straight book distribution was kind of negligent of the time too. So how do you balance that?
So we would see, how would that look? Well, we don't have any grihasthas yet, so we don't know, but most likely it will just, there's restaurant food distribution, prashadam. Guru Maharaj, his vision is like that, prashadam distribution. But don't worry, the farms are going to get started very soon. So those who are planning to get married or getting married, they don't have to worry about so much of that. The farms should be there. And if that's not there, then there's some situation with food distribution, prashadam distribution, where you distribute prashadam and make an income like that and support yourself. And that's preaching. You're giving prashadam to people. Prabhupada considered that one aspect of the Krishna consciousness movement is prashadam distribution. So like that, So, if we're engaged, we don't have to worry. Krishna provides everything. If we're engaged properly, if we're in proper consciousness, but that has to be derived in the renounced order of life. We have to, we mold our devotional life and our attitudes in this renounced order of life. If we can't do it here, we're not going to be able to do it in the Grihastha ashram. Forget it. You're hopeless. If you can't do it here, and you can't live by a principle and live peacefully in the sense that you're not disturbed all the time, your life is going on, then the Grihastha ashram will be really, really, really difficult in terms of performing devotional service. So we have to preach. As brahmacharis and brahmacharinis and the renounced order of life means preaching. We have to, in different ways. By showing, by example. That's why you're all going out to Harinam every day. You should go out. That's purifying. Go out every day, distribute books out there, talk to people. It's purifying. Guru Maharaj wants this actually. He wants the temple to be doing a lot of Harinam. Should go out, do kirtan. That's purifying. You purify yourself, purify others. So like that. Okay? Anything else? Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.